All right, people, it's your boy Chig, Gooner Eagle Eye, coming into you again to talk about the Arsenal Southampton game. As promised, I'm here with my boy Jay. Say hello.
Hello.
I don't even know you can hear him. Can you even can? I'm wondering if anyone can tell me if they can hear him. Tell me if they can hear him, and I'll tell him to speak up. But yeah, so I'm literally just going to give my thoughts on the game, and in terms of how I thought Arsenal played. I don't know about you guys. It was a nervous match to watch. I'm not going to lie to you. I was expecting it to be a lot more comfortable. For those of you who saw my review and heard my review earlier today, I felt like we would win 3-1. I felt like it would be relatively comfortable, but there's always that kind of Arsenal kind of mishap that happens in our defence. And lo and behold, the same thing happened today. Jay, what do you reckon your thoughts were about the game?
Well, funny enough, like I was fairly confident going into the game, like you were, because I know we've actually struggled with Southampton, admittedly, like over the previous seasons, like particularly when they had Coman in charge. I mean, obviously, well, so I don't want to put you guys into a car crash, but there was also that time we lost 4-0 last year.
Oh gosh, the one that hurts.
But yeah, like I was reasonably confident this year round for a couple of reasons. Principally, they had a new manager, Claude Puel, who, of course, has been acknowledged. He was a Wenger disciple. They worked together at Monaco for a while. They had, some key players leave, particularly Wanyama in the midfield. And I thought that today, with our new signings coming in, we were coming off the Watford win before the international break, that, we could assert ourselves in this game. The new signings would want to prove themselves. We had also a couple of former Southampton players that I would have, I was thinking before the game they would want to prove themselves. You got Walcott, who started on the right, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, who was on the left for this game.
Who never performs well on the left, though.
No, he doesn't, Chig, you're right. And I don't know, to be fair, with Oxlade-Chamberlain, I guess to sidetrack a bit, he... for me, to be honest, as an Arsenal fan, he's coming into the last chance saloon for me, Chig, because, I mean, we initially bought him for, if you think about it, back when we bought him, which was, admittedly, I don't know, I can't actually exactly remember. I think it was maybe about 5 years ago now that Oxlade-Chamberlain was brought into the team. We paid a substantial amount of money for him as a teenager, and Oxlade-Chamberlain has always showed some great glimpses of quality. He has a burst of pace, but he can, he can take on a man.
Yeah,
he can attack. He can get a goal here and there, like we saw for Liverpool when he came on the game. We basically lost it, but he put in a really good dribble when he got his goal. But the thing is, he really hasn't developed in terms of football intelligence at all. Positional awareness, forget about it. He doesn't have it. And in terms of making, the right way to pass and transitioning in the right moments, that is nothing. Back. Yeah, it's not something that Oxlade-Chamberlain has really ever been strong at. Tracking back, he can do and he's capable because he has a lot of pace and power, but unfortunately, he neglects those duties too often. And it's just, like, I feel this is a very important season for Oxlade-Chamberlain, because if he doesn't perform this season, you would hope that, well, as an Arsenal fan anyway, I would certainly hope that. You never want to see a player fail, but you have to say that his time may be up if he isn't able to make it this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts on Ox is that I feel like he has it in him, but for the last 18 months to 2 years, hasn't shown it consistently. I agree. I don't think he's kicked on as much as we hoped. And I don't think it helps that Wenger doesn't seem to play him in what is his perceived best position, which is the right midfield. I know Ox himself envisages himself to be this number 8 character. I don't feel like he's a number 8. Because to be a number 8, to play that Santi role that Santi played today, you need to be able to defend, which he can't do. He's not creative enough to play as a number 10. So where would you? And he wouldn't play in defensive midfield. So there's nowhere really centrally that you would play him. So I feel like the best role for him is on that right wing. But much like you, he doesn't make enough of the right decision. So Ox is a frustrating one because 1 minute he'll do something spectacular. You have like a long range spectacular shot. You think to yourself, wow, where the fuck has that come from? Or in a game where inevitably we're just hitting loads of sideways balls, he'll suddenly come from nowhere and hit a direct ball or just come with a direct shot or show some sort of urgency and impetus. And I think, yes, finally someone is driving us forward. And then the other times you just think to yourself, just think, take some time for a second just to think about what you're doing. Like, why would you shoot instead of just passing the ball?
I know, man. Like, I feel a pain on that one because it's like, it was almost really unlucky at times, but when you analyze the games back, there wasn't luck in it. But I remember particularly last season, like there were certain games where it always seemed to be Ox would get, he would get turned over in the transition. He would lose the ball, as in we'd be on the attack. We'd have people pushing forward, and he would always lose the ball in a key space.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get turned over, and then we would get countered, and the opponent would inevitably score. It just seemed like he got caught in that moment a good 3 times last year. And when you look back through his stats, I mean, admittedly, I don't have them to hand. And to be fair, it's a sad day. I've been watching the boxing with Mo and Jing. It's all good. But, like, I think I saw something earlier where he's maybe scored at best, like, 6 goals in 100 appearances. Maybe he's got, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 assists or so. Like, he's not bringing the productivity you would hope for. And his technical play isn't the best in between anyway. So it's like...
Is that why you would prepare to give Walcott more of a chance than Ox, given those stats?
Well,
because Walcott's stats are a lot better than his actual ability, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I mean, I know the audience for your show here, they're not familiar with my views on Walcott, but I would say that Walcott, of course, as Arsenal fans know, he's a very, very frustrating player.
Yes.
Came through on the scene with us. He has so much pace. He makes defenses so nervous just from the aspect of his game.
Mm-hmm.
But Walcott has always been a bit of a square peg in a round hole. He's never been a person that has really fitted in with the general vibe at Arsenal, which is, Wenger likes to play a passing game.
Tap.
We try to... the great Barcelona teams of the mid-2000s with Pep Guardiola, where we try to embrace the tiki-taka style. Walcott's always been an outlier to that. But in a way, at some points that's helped his cause, but at some points it's held him back because he's always been good for the outball. And Walcott he's been capable of the sublime at times. I remember a few years back when we were playing Newcastle, I think at home, and we absolutely destroyed him. One of the goals that he scored was pretty sensational, where he's basically dribbled like 4 people off the left wing, cut and scored. But the thing with Walcott is that, like, he is technically, I would say, he's quite a limited footballer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not someone that's ever really going to rack up assists or bring other people into play and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very fast direct player. And unfortunately for him, the team that he plays in, which is Arsenal at the present time, we're not always that accommodating to that style of play. There is, in fact, to be fair, throughout the team, there are some players and a way of playing that we have that I feel that we're not playing to their strengths the best. Like, for example, if you take Giroud, who kind of is always the elephant in the room when it comes to these Arsenal discussions. I know that a lot of people done them. And
big skate.
You guys don't know me so well, but yeah, I'm also not the biggest Giroud fan, but another time we'll get into
Ditto, people. Ditto.
But one thing I will say about Giroud, the guy's what, 6'3", 6'4". He's clearly a target man who, as you see in the games, he has a bit of technique about him. He can flick on, he can do this and this and that. we don't play to Giroud's strengths at all, and we haven't in the 4 years he's been there. You think you have a 6'4" guy, you know, he's reasonably decent in the air, he can play fix, he can bring people into play. So you would think a target man of his type would more be suited to, you know, the kind of team that is looking to keep the ball wide, put crosses in.
Palace?
You know, well, I'll come to Palace in a second, but, you know, as in put crosses in, as in make it more of a focal point, but you're making advantage of, you know, his height and his physical attributes. But the thing is, we don't actually do that. We're not a team that enjoys playing wide at all.
We don't have any crosses in the team.
Any Arsenal fan that's listening to this and has had the pleasure of struggling through watching our games, where we try and pass through the middle incessantly, tap, here and there, knows that we're not a team that particularly enjoys getting wide, stretching the play, putting the balls in. I feel like Giroud, honestly, like, as much as he frustrates me, there are times I feel like Giroud could put up 20 league goals in like a Crystal Palace or West Brom or a team like that.
But do you know what? But it's valid points you're making, because I think sometimes we forget. Let's be honest. We paid 12 million for Giroud. He's doing well when you consider that.
I mean, about 12 million. At the time he was playing for Montpellier, they were a kind of outlier in the French league. They were almost like, I kind of want to say like a Leicester type situation, maybe not quite close, but they were a low team. They managed to win in the French league that year, and Giroud was the top scorer. We brought him into our team, and I think I could see what attracted Wenger to him, as in he has a very good amount of technique in terms of the fix that he plays, and he can occasionally bring other people into play. But like, I don't know, man. Like, in terms of our forward momentum and what we're trying to do on the pitch, what Wenger's always tried to do, I don't think Giroud has ever fitted in with that goal. And I'll leave it to others to decide whether Wenger has kept persisting with him because he bought this person that he needs to, or if it's something else. But it is definitely concerning that we've persisted with this attack for so many seasons, and he has not been able to quite fulfill the requirements that we've really been looking out for.
Okay, so I mean, given everything that happened today, in terms of our performance, well, I know we've been discussing it prior to coming on air, like how bad it was. What was your take on it? And I'll give my take shortly.
Well, I'll start from the ground up. So, basically, okay, so we're at Southampton to home. We have to play Paris Saint-Germain midweek on Tuesday, away from home, Champions League. Of course, Arsenal fans are going to understand that's a key game for us. Like, we need to make big strides in this competition. Anyone who has been unfortunate enough to watch enough of our Champions League games recently knows that what normally happens is we'll finish second in the group. We'll get an opponent beyond our depth. It could be Barcelona, it could be Bayern Munich, it could be someone. And then we will lose to them in round of 16. So this is a group that this time we actually have, I think, a decent chance of winning. We've had decent chances before, but hopefully this time things will be better. Now, I will say, with the way that we prepared today, Wenger clearly had that in mind for me. The two big changes that he made were that he decided to drop Granit Xhaka to the bench, who had just come into the game a little bit more. Like, I mean, he started and finished the game against Watford.
Played well,
and,
I thought. Played really well.
Yeah, Xhaka, he's a very interesting player. I mean, I guess he was kind of brought in as a replacement for Mikel Arteta, and he's a player that is quite interesting because to me he's very from what I've seen of him so far, both before he came to us and with us, he can be quite rash in a tackle. He's not afraid to physically impose himself at all. Okay. I think that will stand him in good stead in this league, but it's something to be mindful of, that, you know, he can be a bit too rash. He gets some yellow cards at times. even just in when Switzerland beat Portugal 2-0 in the international break, he got sent off for a second yellow card deep into injury time when you would kind of hope your players would be intelligent enough to not get a booking at that point when the game's almost over. But apart from that, his rashness, his positional play is very good, and his range of passing, I have to say, is exceptional. I've read around reports about him being compared to Xabi Alonso, and while I would say it's certainly far too early in his career for those comparisons to be made,
Alonso, people talk about petite, bro.
Well, yeah, I think it's a little bit too early for those, but I will say that his range of passing is exceptional. And if we're talking about the game against Southampton in general, the changes were interesting. Of course,
did you agree with the Alexis dropping and the Xhaka dropping, considering Tuesday?
I personally didn't, because I'm kind of the mindset where, like, you'll see this sometimes, and of course I appreciate managers need to manage their team. Personally, for me, my outset of it is try and play your best team as much as possible, but with the caveat that those players, if you get into a position of advantage, can be brought off. So whereas, say for example, he's dropped Xhaka and Alexis Sanchez to the bench, he's brought other people in. Personally, I would do things in reverse. I would prefer to start our key players, play to the best of our ability if possible, and then get that advantage. Like, you would hope that the advantage you get, maybe you go 1-0, 2-0 up if things are going well. I would say at that point,
you bring them off.
Bring your people off and then fill them in so that they have the minutes left. Because we did things in reverse. Like, Sanchez came on around the 60th minute or so.
Yeah.
Xhaka didn't come on, of course. But, you know, the game, eventually it went well. I'll fill in on how I thought the game went later. But, you know, like, really, I think it's always very risky. I understand the manager has to manage the minutes of the players that is coming in. But when particularly, it's annoying as an Arsenal fan, because of course we always suffer with like these certain issues. Like, we have players that have injuries. It takes them a while to come back and things like that. And Wenger, I can appreciate, he's really tried to manage it this season. Like, he's tried to keep people that participated late at the Euros as late as possible. Like, Ozil wasn't getting minutes until the game before last 2 weeks ago against Watford, and other things that have happened. But you also have to manage a team in a way where, as far as I'm concerned, even if you have top quality, your best quality players that are 100% fit, get the fitness there out of them at the start. Control the game, make sure you're in a good position, and then take the players off. I don't agree with the principle that you're resting a tired and haven't played, and then you're throwing them off when the situation gets desperate. I really don't agree with that line of thinking at all, to be honest.
In a way, to be honest, I think Wenger is in a bit of a no-win situation, because I will freely admit this. I was one of the people who was very highly critical of the fact that we have a habit of playing people through this supposed red zone that he keeps mentioning. So Ramsey is one of those players. Now, I have my own criticisms of Ramsey. These guys have heard me bitch about Ramsey before. You have definitely heard me bitch about Ramsey before. But what my criticism of someone like Wenger when it comes to Ramsey is, clearly he likes Ramsey a lot as a player. There's this, certain players have this red zone and then they get an injury. My reaction is, so why don't you see that a player's come into the supposed red zone and then rest those players? Now, the argument for everyone could be, yeah, but we're 3 games into the season. Fine, I understand that. The thing about with Alexis, why I think that slightly differs to the Xhaka one, is I agree and I disagree with you. I think Xhaka should have played. There was no reason for him, in my mind, not to play, even with Tuesday in mind. The only thing that I actually agree with Wenger on is Alexis. So Alexis came from South America on Friday, and apparently didn't train until Saturday. Or in fact, I don't think he trained at all because the game was on Saturday. So when you bear that in mind, that's a long haul flight to then start preparing a player. And blimey, I mean, we've got a few friends who've been back from holiday themselves, and I can guarantee it's been a few days later and they're still recovering from their jet lag. I know my mum has very recently returned from being abroad, and even now she's still a bit tired. So the fact that, so I don't necessarily see that there was anything wrong in dropping Alexis. My problem is, fine, drop Alexis. Why would you put Ox there? Ox was terrible against Watford. And I actually feel sorry for Ox in a way because I actually thought he was starting to show improvement. I don't think he was... I think he was pretty good against Liverpool. I think he was one of our few decent players that looked really good when he came on. I didn't think he was particularly bad against Leicester. I thought he was all right. I could see why Wenger opted to start him against Leicester. But then he switched into the left for Watford, and he was our worst player on the pitch against Watford. And then today, I was just watching him. I mean, we might as well kind of segue into the marks out of 10 for the players. In terms of Chig, I don't know about you, I'd give Chig an 8 out of 10. I thought he was fantastic today. What do you reckon?
Chig was actually very good today. Like, we did talk about it a little bit earlier, like casually off the mic, where I particularly feared for Chig, where Shane Long, the shot came into Chig, he's parried it out to the left corner, and Shane Long had the follow-up shot that could go into the left corner. Like, I have noted in my personal time, people won't know it on this, but Chig seems to be like particularly susceptible to low shots on his inside post. Like, I don't know if it's an age thing or his reach or his height, but it seems like, unfortunately, he's not as quick as getting down to those low shots in the corner as I would like. But Chig, for me personally, he was very good today. He brought us out of a few moments, so I'd be happy to sit on the 8 out of 10. If we're going through all the players individually, I guess that's the point of this out of 10 thing. Defensive-wise,
Bellerin?
We had some... I actually thought Bellerin was very good today. The thing with Bellerin, though, I'm probably going to get some flack from this from the people that follow this channel and things later.
Don't worry, I'm used to it.
I still think that there's things Bellerin can improve on in his defensive game. But the thing is, it's kind of like his pace and the way he looks at the game, it gets him out of a lot of situations that if he wasn't as fast, he wouldn't be. Like, if Bellerin was a half a yard or something slower, do you think maybe people would think he's a terrible defender? I don't know, but it just seems like he can get himself out of situations so easily.
Do you think he's the best right back in the league, though?
Best right back in the league?
I think he is, but only because there's not any great right backs.
I have to admit, I would find that tough to agree with. Because, admittedly, I'm not the kind of football fan that really cares about right backs or full backs in general, really. But, all right, for the sake of this argument, I'll go through a few in the league. So, you take Manchester City, who had a good performance today. Their right back options, they've got Zabaleta and Sanya. I might have to avoid City in this argument because Sanya, honestly, looking at him play nowadays, I'm just thinking, why the fuck did we let this guy go? Seriously, Sanya... Man, he was so solid and consistent for our team. And I'm looking at it from City, and it's like, this guy's still got a few years left in him. Why the fuck did we actually sell him?
It's called out of contract. So, we had our hands are tied.
I'll let Sanya go, but shit me. Sanya's still, for me, Sanya's
He's doing well for his age.
He's still up there, man.
He is doing well.
Come to United. They're using, using Antonio Valencia, formerly a right winger. Personally, I don't know if I really like him at right back that much. I mean, he's willing to work hard, and when he gets forward, of course, with his training as a winger, he can put in some good crosses. But I still don't know if I see him as that, as an actual fullback, basically.
Okay, Chelsea.
Chelsea actually an interesting case because
They've only just
I
bought
kind
that,
of feel in-house they've wanted to move on Ivanovic if they can. Ivanovic, I was a big fan of Ivanovic. Like
fantasy football.
like he was my fantasy football standard like 3 years ago. For any of you guys that play fantasy football that are listening to this now, Ivanovic used to be my standard because he was good on the attack. He would be given the responsibility of putting crosses in, things in, and like if you do fantasy football, you hope for a defender that will occasionally have some attacking output. But like in recent years, he's declined. He's still getting the chances there, and they've kind of converted even Azpilicueta into a left back, even though he's right-footed. And I'm assuming the long-term plan now that Chelsea have signed Marcus Alonso is that they would want to play him at left back and move Azpilicueta Ivanovic out. So Ivanovic, he's probably not so much an option that you consider as one of the best in the league.
Okay.
And then you would look at who else is in the top four? You got someone like Tottenham who have Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker's getting games for.
Don't tell me Bellerin ain't better than Kyle Walker.
And
fuck that, bro.
Personally, maybe it's the Arsenal bias in me, but honestly, I'm not even that big a fan of Kyle Walker.
I'm fucking right, bro.
For me, he's a worse version of Bellerin. Like he has the pace that can sometimes help him and things, but he's not. His possessional awareness isn't the greatest. He can be good in the tackle, and he is committed and working a lot harder than Pochettino. But if we're talking best right backs in the league, Bellerin, he's very young, but he has so much potential, and he's definitely up there, I would say, with the best other people. There are other people there. I mean, I would say someone like Seamus Coleman for Everton. He could be a good shout for someone that's good there.
I still have Bellerin.
He used to be another fantasy football classic for me, actually, Coleman.
I still have Bellerin now.
You can look at someone like Nathaniel Klein for Liverpool. He's settled in there quite well.
Oh, for those of you who don't know, Jay exceptionally hates Liverpool. Let's go. Sorry, Robbie Richmond, if you're listening to this. I know that's your team, but it's true.
But Klein is probably one of my favorite right backs in the league, to be fair. Bellerin is if he's not the best, he is definitely up there. The thing is, I will make a point on tactical fullbacks in general is that footballers are expected to do a lot more now than they were when we were growing up in the game.
Yeah.
Fullbacks and wingers, used to be 4-4-2. Wingers stay wide, they put the crosses in, the striker puts it in the net. Nowadays, footballers are supposed to be everywhere. As in
everything,
they have to track back.
Yeah.
They have to provide assists. They have to put in crosses. They have to
score goals.
Whereas it's a great age of football that we're living in because it's made the game so much more interesting. But at the same time, we as fans have to appreciate that's a lot harder to perform. And the people that are doing it, most of them, for the most part, are doing the best they can. But it's evolved. It's a lot bigger now than it was before.
All right, let's continue running through these marks out of 10. So, Koscielny, Captain Koscielny. I thought, as per fucking usual, was fantastic.
Honestly, I don't have enough marks to give him. Let's give him. I give him 100 out of 10. I mean, come on your birthday as a centre back, pulling out that goal under pressure, coming up to halftime. I'm sorry, but no, I'm gonna have to be biased out here to the listeners on that one and say that there aren't enough numbers in the world you can conjure up to rate Koscielny's performance out of 10 today.
I thought he was.
We didn't keep a clean sheet, but fuck it. He's got a goddamn bicycle kick. What do you want from him, man?
I agree with that. I just think he's showing his absolute very best football at the moment. And it makes me nervous because he's approaching the last year of his contract. And in fact, I think he's in his last year of this contract. And as per usual, we're twiddling our thumbs, trying to all of a sudden rally around and offer him a deal. So I'm hoping we tie that up because I don't know where we'd be without Koscielny. I'd give him I'm going to give him an 8.5 because you're going to see the one person I give higher marks to. But I'm going to give him an 8.5. I thought he was exceptional today. I really did. How about the man next to him, on his debut? Mustafi. How do you think he did?
Mustafi, for me, he had a mixed debut. Mustafi, he's like I can see in his play, he's very positive attacking the ball, which I think is good. I think it will allow us to play a higher line when we get things in sync. As in, I could see him holding the line with Koscielny and actively attacking the ball, as opposed to when our the base was Koscielny and Mertesacker. Mertesacker, well, most people I guess will be familiar. He's more based on positional play. Mm-hmm. He's not someone that will come out and attack the ball. He's not someone that will be running around and putting in challenges. He's very, very dependent on the way he positions himself in the way that he defends. Mustafi, I thought he played fairly well. He made some mistakes, I felt, with his passing at times, like maybe the pace of the game got away from him and he was a little bit too casual with his passing at times. But in terms of the actual nitty-gritty of defending, I thought he did reasonably well. He put in some tackles at times. He wasn't afraid to put himself about. He wasn't afraid to impose himself on the attacking threats from Southampton. So I thought for a debut, he did pretty good. I would be happy to give him. Maybe I'll give him a 7.5 out of 10, as I'm in a fairly good mood today. On another day, maybe I'll give him a 7. But I thought that he did fairly well for a debut. But he will need to increase his understanding with Koscielny in terms of the lines that they're holding and their responsibilities at that time. Yeah. And also his passing, he needs to be a bit more tighter with as well.
To be honest, I think you are more generous than me in this particular instance. I thought he did okay. I thought he had a really shaky start like you. I was a bit disappointed the way he kept giving the ball away. Thought grew into the game as the game went on. I am quite excited by the potential of the partnership of Koscielny and Mustafi. I think that could be potentially a really good partnership. Give him a 7. Just because I think against a better team, if he keeps giving the ball, like say on Tuesday, if he does that shit, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I'm hoping that was just first day nerves. He's got it out of his system. His debut's come and gone, and he'll improve. As for Mr. Monreal, there's not really a lot to say about Monreal. He's usually dependable. I never ever score him any higher really than a 7. Or any lower than a 7. He just is what he is.
He's a classic 7 out of 10 player, but teams need that.
Yes, I completely agree. It's not a criticism.
You get caught up in needing a world-class player for this, and that position, but it also comes down to management and getting the best out of people. Like Ferguson made a career on 7 out of 10 players. You look at guys like Fletcher and O'Shea. Do you think anyone ever looks at them motherfuckers and thought they were world-class? No.
I agree.
But
completely
as long as you've got some people that can put in 7 out of 10 performances every week,
yes,
you need those baseline players, man. Like seriously, not everyone is going to be fucking Ronaldo every week. Like that's just the way it is.
Completely agree. So you would agree with a 7?
Of course, Monreal is basically always a 7. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a time where I get hit by a car and I'm in a coma and I wake up and someone will tell me put in a 6 out of 10. But as far as I know, Monreal is a very, very consistent player. He will pretty much always put in that 7 out of 10 performance.
By the way, I don't even know if we actually rated Bellerin, but if we didn't, I'd also give him a 7. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong. I didn't really see him that much during the match, apart from, like Jake said earlier, really, I saw him use his speed every now and again to try and get himself out of trouble that he put himself in. So I'd be inclined to give him 7, just in case I didn't give him a rating, because I feel like I didn't. In terms of Coquelin, how do you feel Coquelin did alongside Santi?
Well, Coquelin and Santi is an interesting one for me because they were our first choice double pivot midfield pairing last season, and then unfortunately Santi, he got that long-term injury and things fell apart for us a little bit. And looking at them today, Coquelin is a guy that it probably won't be a popular opinion, but I feel a lot safer with him. As in, I appreciate that there are better midfielders than Coquelin, and ideally we're looking to move the ball around faster and more laterally with midfielders. But Coquelin does something better than anyone else in our midfield ever does, and that is close down and tackle motherfucker when they have the ball. Like, that is something that is so important in the Premier League. It's big, it's tough, it's physical, and Coquelin is by far the best person we have on our team to withstand those challenges. I feel a lot safer with him in the team. Now, Cazorla and Coquelin, admittedly, with that prelude, they didn't start out so good. Southampton dominated us pretty much for the first at least 30 to 35 minutes of the game.
To be fair,
honestly, as an Arsenal fan, watching that game, I was pretty disgusted with the first half an hour of it because they showed more desire than us, they had more of the ball than us, and it could have been really bad afternoon for us. But Coquelin, he grew into the game. He was making tackles here and there. He actually avoided his silly customary yellow booking as well, so that was a bonus. And I felt his performance, I would give him a 7 out of 10 because there were moments where, and if he wasn't putting in the interceptions and tackles that he did, maybe it could have led to a transition for Southampton that we could have been in a lot of problems, and maybe they would have got a goal or two more out of it.
I agree with a lot of what you just said. I thought Romelu for them was fantastic, to be fair. I honestly thought he bossed a lot of that midfield. And I felt like he just dominated that midfield play. I do feel you're probably being a bit harsh with Coquelin in terms of the mark you gave him. I know you gave him a 7 out of 10. I'd personally give him a 7.5 out of 10. I thought he did. I thought he did well. I thought he made a lot of key interceptions. Grew into the game. I think particularly after the Southampton goal, I think he started to get a grip of the game and started to not let Romelu boss the midfield as much as he was doing. But I thought, all in all, I thought it was a really good, a really solid performance. I thought from Coquelin. What about his midfield partner, Santi? I personally thought Santi was man of the match. I thought he orchestrated everything perfectly. Scored a high pressure last minute penalty, and scored it well. I just love Santi as a player. Even at 33, he's better than most number 8s that you'll find. What do you reckon?
Oh, Santi Cazorla. Sorry, I just had to put that one out for the haters there because, I spend a lot of times, probably too much time, reading fan forums about football and Arsenal and things in general. And there seems to be a kind of movement away from Santi Cazorla being an integral part of the team. A lot of people say that he doesn't have the legs to get around in our midfield anymore. There are certain things that he's not doing. But for me, Santi Cazorla is still a key part of what makes our midfield tick on the days that we put in good football performances. If you look at Santi today, he made a lot of key passes, made himself available for most of the game. But apart from that, his experience, the way he moves the ball around, links up with others, I think is absolutely invaluable. We don't have another player like him at the moment. I mean, you can look at someone like Ozil who plays further forward. That is fine. But in terms of the double pivot that we try to play, as in the supporting cast, the link between transitioning the ball from defense through the midfield to the attack, we don't really have anyone else other than Cazorla, apart from maybe we have Jack Wilshere one day when he comes back from loan to go into the role. But Cazorla, for me, I've always been a big fan of his, and I think the calls of him being dropped for the team are absolutely ridiculous. And I think he put in a performance today that showed how ridiculous the haters look when they say that Santi should be dropped from the team. He was everywhere. He was linking up the play. I saw I think it was in the 92nd minute, he was chasing back to track down a tackle.
And also, he was the only person in the first half that seemed to try and want to speed up the play. We seemed so lethargic in the first half. And he was the only one that was kind of trying to get on the ball and attempt to make us pass a little bit quicker.
I would definitely agree. I mean, Santi, like no place, he's not perfect, but he's closer to perfect than a lot of other people in our squad. And like you alluded to the pressure moment earlier when we had the penalty. Don't want to spoil it for any of the Arsenal fans who haven't watched Match of the Day yet, and maybe you should before listening to this show. But he had a pressure moment where we were presented with a penalty, and we had Koscielny down injured in the box. The referee tended it to him late. Pressures, but I mean, and bear in mind this is in stoppage time as well. But Santi in a pressure situation, everything cleared up, and he was able to steer the ball straight into home. And I think that Santi is certainly someone that we will really miss.
I agree.
When he has to step down, and he was definitely, well, I was going to say one of our better players today, but for me, he was one of our man of the match.
And one of our biggest misses last season, to be perfectly honest.
Seriously, it's like people have like goldfish memories nowadays. When Cazorla got injured last year, that went a long way towards derailing us for the league.
Yes.
And bear in mind, we still managed to finish second as well. I'm not going to claim that if he'd stayed fit the whole time, we would have won, because I don't want to diminish Leicester's achievement. But at the same time, Cazorla is an absolutely key player for us, and he was magnificent today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Man of the match. I'd give him a 9 out of 10 personally. And then we go on to our two winners, who let's talk about Theo, because we talked about Ops a lot. Let's talk about Theo. How do you feel he does?
Mr. Walker. Well, Mr. Walker, he has.
Theo.
I think we actually talked about this a little bit earlier of the show, where I feel that Theo, he's showing a lot of desire. I like to call it contract mode for Theo, where he seems to be playing in that mode where a contract is around the corner. For me, he seems to play a lot better when there's something on the table that he needs to play for. And since the season started, the whole team, to be honest, hasn't been that great. But he has, to be fair to Theo, he's shown a lot of desire. He has, put in effort into tracking back. He's following wingers' runs when they're trying to run through on his wing. He's putting in a great effort to play the game a lot better. In terms of his performance today, we saw more of that. But also, the problem that I have with Theo in general nowadays, also Riyad said, was the fact that he's just not very good with the ball at his feet anymore. Like, a person with Theo's pace really should be aiming to take on people all the time. Even if you only do that basic knock around where you just pass it and you run the other side.
You don't need to show
someone
skill.
Who has Theo's pace, which is significantly higher than a lot of people in the league. He should be looking to beat people for pace, but he doesn't exploit that part of his game well enough anymore. His runs off the ball are fairly good, but in this match, unfortunately, they didn't really come to fruition for us too much. And it's difficult to say that he put in a good performance today, because it's mainly for him today. He put in the basics right, whereas we worked hard and he tracked back. But I don't think he had a big influence on the game. Maybe I would give him a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd concur with that mark, actually. I'd give him a 6.5 out of 10. I don't know. He had a couple of decent crosses and had a couple of runs, and I do agree with you in terms of the effort. I think he is trying. Like you say, contract mode. I'm very familiar with that. But that Theo is a beast. Whenever he's due a contract, my gosh, he plays for that contract. Proper beast, real mercenary type. But I I would agree with that, Mark. Probably a 6.5 out of 10. And Ox, I know we've spoken about him earlier. I thought was terrible in this match, to be honest. Really pissed me off on a number of occasions. I'd give him a 4 out of 10. As harsh as that sounds, I just wasn't happy with his performance. What do you reckon?
Honestly, if I could like invent a number that was significantly less than 0, like I mean, obviously, like when you go into temperature, you know, like when it's really cold, you got like -1 or -10 or something like that. Like, I really want to give him a minus number because there was pretty much nothing Ox did in this game against Southampton today that I felt had any positive effect on our chances of winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
He was poor in every aspect of every single thing he did. I can't think of one thing he did well or even half well. He didn't pass well. He didn't put in tackles well. He didn't show for the ball well. He didn't dribble past anyone well. He didn't shoot well. There was literally nothing to his game that you could say. And it was really disappointing because, like, we went through the whole familiar cycle with Ox, didn't we, really? Arsenal fans know that cycle. You know, dedicated Arsenal fans, the types that will, you know, look at the preseason. They may even go to the games and you know, really try to get a feel for what Arsenal's chances are over the season coming ahead. Ox, he was pretty great in preseason. He was very positive in his contributions. He was attacking with the ball well. He was providing the balls for others. He was doing, you know, a lot of things that you hoped he would be able to carry into this season in good form. Now, admittedly, up to this point, I thought his season was mixed, but I could see positives in it. Like, I would say, in particular against Liverpool, where the game was all but lost. We were losing 4-1. We bring Ox on, and almost out of nowhere, he's put in a really great solo effort where he's basically got the ball on the left-hand side. He's cut in, he's dribbled past like 2 people, he's banged the goal in the bottom corner. You're thinking, Ox has that in his locker. Maybe,
as I keep telling you people,
maybe this would be, maybe not that it would be a season, but that maybe he can at least contribute that kind of thing more. But then you look at today, and it's just like, I honestly struggle to come up with excuses for Ox anymore, because as someone who I used to be a big fan of his development and how things were doing, but I'm kind of thinking now that it's detrimental to the team because we've all seen his decision making at key points. It's really not good. I mean, he will lose the ball in a key situation. The team will counter-attack. Someone will score against us. Like, we've seen that a few times. And I don't want to always rub that on him because, you know, at the end of the day, he loses the ball, but it's still up to the rest of the team to maintain some kind of defensive shape, running back and alleviating the possibility of them scoring. But you look at Ox's performance today, and I struggle to think of anything positive to defend him with. He was poor in everything he did. Now, if I would give a political marking, as in I want to be nice and civilized, I will also agree with a 4 out of 10. But honestly, I want to give him a lot lower because that was far below what he's capable of. And I was really disappointed in that performance. Angry at times, to be honest.
And let me put something into perspective for you and all the Arsenal fans listening. Just think about this. Ox is still here. Campbell is on loan. Let us sink in for a second.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm the kind of person that, like, I think I know everything. People that know me know that I think I know everything. But one thing I will say is when it comes to football, that I have an acknowledgement at least that I feel, well, okay, Arsene, he has his team, he does training sessions with them, He sees the movements they're doing in training, the attitude they have, all the little moments that we don't ever get to see. So I'd like to assume, not just for Arsenal, but every football manager, that they give everyone a fair chance. As in, they run their training sessions, they have their assistant coaches, they're analysing the way everyone is doing, and then based on that, they will select them for the game. If someone is putting in 100% effort in the training and is also displaying, a good level of technique and things that they deserve to be on the pitch, I like to think that they're going to be out there. But when it comes to someone like Campbell, I struggle to see that at times, and especially when I consider that Ox and Walcott are still having chances here. I'll get into debates on them more in depth at another time, but I think that most Arsenal fans can agree that Joel Campbell was someone that he was a very hard-working player. He put in a lot of effort, and not only did he put in a lot of effort, but at times last season when we really needed something, I remember the Champions League group stage, where as usual Arsenal were being Arsenal, we really needed something. And it came to that Olympiacos game away, and because we had, we hadn't really been good in that stage, and we needed a win pretty much to get through. And Campbell, he had a great game against Olympiacos, and maybe some people listening to this will be saying that they were low opposition, but at the same time, they can be low opposition, but these pressure moments make sports people. All these people are there because they want to be the best, they want to be the competitive, and they thrive in these situations. And Campbell really thrived in that situation. And there were other games where he worked very hard. I think he's technically quite good. He can put a through ball through at times. He's got an eye for a goal. And sometimes I wonder, we've kept on the club and Campbell's been loaned out yet again. I have to wonder sometimes what he's seeing. I don't know if Joel's not doing something right in training or if something else has gone awry, but for me, it's difficult to say that Campbell didn't deserve more of a chance.
Absolutely deserves more chance. Absolutely. What about famous number 10? How do you think? I thought, as I saw him play, he was fairly anonymous for a lot of periods of the game. And then kind of towards the end, I noticed he started to wait, probably around about the 70th minute, put a little bit more effort in, started to try and create a little bit more. I think was perked up by the fact that Alexis came on and Juru came on. How do you reckon Ozil played today?
Well, our famous number 11.
Number 11, yeah.
In shirt only, although, we'll see how it goes with Wilshere. I know Ozil was chasing that number 10 shot hard, but
playing in the number 10 position, why not?
Honestly, for the people who haven't listened to this before, I'm probably the biggest non-German Mesut Ozil fan you'll ever meet. I feel that the game, his passes, his decision-making in key moments is better than most people I've ever seen with football on the planet. But having said that, against Southampton today, I thought he was poor. He was quite off the pace. In the second half, as Chig alludes to, he grew into the game a lot more, and I felt he became more influential and started playing key crosses. But honestly, I didn't think Ozil was that good. I can't remember what. I think it was in the second half, but there was one chance I remember he had where the ball's passed into him, and he came with a really uncharacteristically bad forward touch where he sort of come into him from this angle. It's on his favoured left foot. He's touched it, but he's touched it so far ahead of him that the defender just easily eats it up and blasts it out. And it was really uncharacteristic of him, and it was a shame for him. But I have to say that it was a poor performance for Ozil, and for me, I'd give him 5.5 out of 10, maybe.
Yeah, I'd give him something similar. I'd give him a 6 out of 10. I don't think he was that good. And I suppose this one will be a hot topic. Perez. Now, I had my debate. I hold my hands up. I genuinely thought, and I even argued with Jay about this privately, I didn't think Wenger would start him. I felt like he would go with the experience of Giroud, just because I felt like if Perez didn't have a good, however long he was going to get if he started, so it's 60 minutes in this case, but it could have been 70 minutes or whatever, then he'd be highly in the spotlight. People would highly criticize him. And I just felt like it would be a better ploy if you bring him on to have a cameo role for about 15, 20 minutes. Then no one could say he's shit, or he's a shit version of Vardy. Like, crazily, I'm arguing with people on YouTube. I know people are probably sat there thinking, well, why are you arguing with people on YouTube? And I know I find myself being dragged into these things, but I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, he's bang average," and he's rubbish. And even was the Gooner, who I actually quite like and respect, was saying that, "Oh, he's a shit version of Vardy," and I'm like, the man has had 60 minutes, and it's funny enough. Me and Jay were talking about this just before we came on air. You know, some people forget we've not had strikers that have started very quickly. You know, even the king himself, Thierry Henry, took 10 games to score his first goal. In today's climate, he would never survive in Arsenal fans, because Arsenal fans will be telling this shit, get rid of him, send him back to Monaco. It's like, my gosh, you guys need to calm the hell down. Is that 60 minutes? The only thing I would say about him, probably needs to put on some muscle, really lightweight. I thought he did okay. I thought as the game went on, he progressed well. I'd be tempted to probably give him 6.5. I don't think he did that badly. For his debut, he's just come from the Liga, learning the league, probably a bit nervous for his debut season. I'll give him 6.5 out of 10. What do you reckon?
Honestly, he is the hardest person to rate for me in the performance wise.
I'd agree.
Because, honestly, for the people listening, we didn't play well today, like, at all, I don't think. Particularly in the first half, Southampton, first 30, 35 minutes or so, for me, they were the better team. They passed the ball around well. They sat back a lot, but at the same time, when they had the ball, they used it quite well. Our passing was really sloppy and disjointed. We didn't transition quickly at all. There were huge gaps at points between both our defense and our midfield and attack. And it was very problematic for the whole day. In terms of Lucas, that was a big problem, because I struggled to even think of, in the first half, a moment where he had decent amount of time on the ball to actually express him, so I could say, situation. Like, I can't think of a time where he was given the ball, he got to have a few seconds with it where maybe he tried to turn a player or unleash a shot or did something like that. But having said that, he did assist the boss on his birthday.
Yeah.
He did get up, he flicked that header across for Koscielny's equaliser. And other than that, there were I saw some small moments from him in the game. I think he seemed to particularly link up well with Alexis when he came on later on in the game. He passed well with others. He seems like quite an unselfish player. It's a debut, so you don't want to judge these things well. We talked about this a couple of times. Like, it's funny the way things are nowadays, because honestly, a Thierry Henry, I don't think they would be allowed to thrive here, because you think, this is a person we've bought from Juventus as a winger. His statistics aren't so good. His performances, they're okay. He's got a bit of pace, but he's not the greatest. I'm just thinking, if we signed someone who was exactly the same as Thierry Henry in 2016, the Arsenal fan base would be going apeshit, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
They wouldn't be, I don't know if they'd be receptive to allowing them the time to settle and do this and that.
Exactly.
So all I would say is that I hope we can give Alexis the time.
Lucas.
Some of our best recent players, not everyone pulls up trees straight away. Exactly. You know,
Exactly.
you can look at Henry, you can look at someone like Bergkamp or Perez. You know, sometimes these things take time. Yes, some people do settle straight away, but also people can sometimes settle and then they're not so consistent. They can fall off.
Paul Pogba comes to mind.
I'll save the Pogba thing for another show. So I think that'll be a feature length. But I will say that Lucas, I saw just about enough in this game to still continue on the positive feeling that I have about him. I think that when we have a more consistent lineup in terms of Alexis starting, it could be Walcott, it could potentially be Iwobi on the other wing. Ozil getting back into form and everything. I think that we will hopefully see a lot more from Lucas. But in terms of his performance today, it was fairly nondescript. I give him a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. It's true. I don't think you can rate it any more than that. Normally, I kind of rate the subs. I probably won't go into that now, but I think in terms of all in all and final thoughts and the rating I'd give the manager, I thought it was a terrible performance. I don't know what happened to us. I know typically we don't perform that well after an international break, but in the last couple of years, I thought we'd gotten over this type of crap. We'd learned to be able to deal with it. And I know I'm talking as though we've lost, and I've been criticizing others for acting like we've lost. Sometimes it's that old saying that, you know, to be a champion, you have to win games like this. And in a game where, to be perfectly honest, Southampton at the very least deserved a point. And that's being generous. Quite frankly, they deserve to win it. But if I'm being honest, they deserve at least a point. And I felt like by hook or by crook and with a little referee assistance, and let's face it, you need a little bit of luck to do something in this league. You just do. And we got it. We got the 3 points against a team who is typically our bogey team. What we've learned today is, I guess, it doesn't matter who the manager is. Once you have a bogey team, you have a bogey team. And Southampton are our bogey team. I said it in my preview show, and I'm saying it now. They are our bogey team. They did very well, actually. They very much surprised me because I thought, for the taking, I thought we'd quite frankly run all over them, and we didn't. In terms of the manager, it's difficult because I do agree with the Alexis dropping, but I don't agree with the Xhaka dropping. I wish that sometimes Wenger wouldn't be scared to play a 4-4-2. Perez screams like a striker who needs to play with a partner. And I think particularly when we were 1-1, and then you bring on who I feel was actually starting to get into the game at that point. Yeah, that Jay's just saying that now. He was pretty annoyed about that as well. At that point, he was starting to get in the game, and then Wenger just makes a like-for-like replacement. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. I felt like that was an opportunity for Wenger to then say, all right, I'll tell you what, Coquelin come off. As well as Coquelin was playing, Coquelin come off, I'll throw on Giroud and really put pressure on Southampton. And instead, it was Southampton that were having the impetus of attacking us, and that really did frustrate me, just watching the game as a whole. So for that reason, I'd probably give Wenger a 5. We won the game, so I don't feel like it's appropriate to give him any lower than a 5. But I do feel like this is one of my biggest frustrations with Wenger is tactically, he's very stubborn. And you need to not be so... You need to learn to be a bit more open-minded tactically. What do you think, Jared? What was your final thoughts on the game?
Final thoughts on the game. Almost, it feels like some kind of bank robbery. Like that, you get those games or weeks in the season where you're following a team and you go on your way. It's been a kind of unusual start for us in the sense that we've, and I think it was our third penalty we got this season.
Yeah.
And that is one
Very
more
unusual
than we
for us.
achieved in the whole of the 15-16 season.
Yeah.
So maybe this whole grappling with attackers in the box thing will be kind to us this year, and we'll see some more penalties coming up. But I will say that Southampton were a very, very good opponent. I mean, there was some press in the game beforehand that Claude Puel, you know, he worked with Arsene at Monaco. They know each other very well.
Yeah.
But Southampton were a very good opponent. For most of the first half, I would say they were the better team.
Yep.
Others could say they possibly deserved more from the game. There had some key chances that Shane Long particularly spurred in the second half. Anywhere near 100%. Arsene made some changes. I'm not sure his changes were the most successful, I would say. I can appreciate the decision to leave Alexis Sanchez on the bench because of how late he scored. But Granit Xhaka today for us was a big miss. He seems to have settled into the team well. His tackling is a little bit rash, but his range of passing, I've been very, very impressed with. You know, we found it a big struggle in the first. Lauren Kashani, what a birthday himself. He regrets of coming back by getting that before half time.
Yeah.
Second half, we started a fair bit better than we were, because in first half, very disappointed for me. Like, we didn't do the basics right. We were sloppy in possession, giving the ball away. Positionally, we weren't so great, you know. But in the second half, I think things improved for us quite a bit, particularly towards the end. We were pressing a lot, and shout out to Santi Cazorla as well, because in a pressure situation, he, you know, I mean, we had that key entry to Kashani towards the end. He had to wait around and everything, but he managed to slot that ball home. And hopefully Premier League goalkeepers won't notice anytime soon that every time Cazorla takes a penalty, he always goes another fighting nickel. Always.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you can like edit that out or something. Yeah. So, and it was a great win, but it was deserved, to be fair.
Yeah.
Even the staunchest Arsenal fan, I find it hard to believe they wouldn't think that Southampton could have, you know, very feasibly got at least a point out of that game and would have well deserved it.
Agreed. So I mean, that's pretty much it in terms of the final thoughts. Got out of jail free card. We don't have too many of those left this season, so I'm hoping our performances generally pick up this season. And I feel like the best place to start is the next game, and onwards and upwards to France now against PSG. I feel like in terms of that game, I feel quietly confident. I don't feel like the same team without Zlatan, which is really weird because I just don't buy that Cavani is as good as people keep saying he is.
He's poor now,
and yeah,
I actually didn't mind Cavani a couple of years ago, but
yeah, see,
he's really bad.
And I think,
I said that if we score a hat trick against us.
do you know what I mean? Just Sod's Law says he scores a hat trick against us now. And I think their only decent players are Mora and Verratti. And I think if you can lock them, your team selection is, I feel like we've got this. Or at least we shouldn't be beat by them. Blimey. And at least come away with a draw. I'd take a draw all day. So let's see. In terms of anything in terms of titles and top fours, I don't think I'm going to talk about that at this stage, just because I feel like, I even said this to Jay earlier, I feel like we're just kind of in a moment, and I feel like even if, to be perfectly honest, even if we have 30 more games, like 34 games more like that, we'll have that all day long. It'll be so undeserved, but fuck it. and probably on
Yeah, you know.
So does that mean that you'll be back at some point to do a show?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I wouldn't recommend supporting Arsenal Football Club for anyone's health. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some kind of stroke or something at some point. I certainly felt like it a few times a day, but I mean, I'd certainly be happy to come back on the show, and you know, to all the fans out there, hopefully the result is a close shave today, definitely, but hopefully this will be a result start our season and hopefully start playing some better quality football and really taking it to teams. We've got a big test against Southampton. I'm not as confident as the host is on the game because we're going to their ground. They have a very dangerous team. We spoke about Cavani a little bit of the audio. I haven't been in the ground of late, but I respect for PSG's midfield. They've got a lot of options there. Also, manager have a lot of respect. We'll preview that game for you, and hopefully we will put in a good performance.
Hi, Ealing, but you doesn't have so I plug my stuff. I'll listen to him. Do follow me on Twitter, also Chig, Chig. If you're not already aware already, look down in the description below. Similarly, if you're listening to this for the first time, do subscribe. Informed of my future stuff when they come out. So I'm out of it because we're recording this at 2:17 at the moment, so in the morning. So we need to finish watching matches of the day and get on with watching some USC if it's going to be on. So I'll leave you guys to it. Take care to people. And we're out of here. Up the Arsenal. Peace.